Okay, so hi there. I'm going to begin the class. Actually, I'm going to verify that the audio is working good. Let me check test the mic. Well, that's working good. This, all right, that one as well. All right, great. Just in case, because again, sometimes it is echoing and I don't notice because I cannot hear myself and I don't need to do the recording. So it's better that I check because I don't have feedback here. So let's begin, okay? Well, this is the fourth class, so we have to finish the last presentation for the second unit, plus some extra details that I'm going to show. We have to go with reflexive pronouns. Okay, let's begin then. Okay, so reflexive pronouns, right? Well, what are pronouns first? Pronouns are always replacing something, right? You have subject pronouns, you have object pronouns, right? You're going to replace nouns. And reflexive pronouns are going to be about this idea of reflecting something, right? And what is a reflection? For example, you can see your reflection in the mirror, or to put emphasis on something. Okay, let's have that idea, reflection and emphasis, because that's what we're going to be doing now. Now, let's read the definition. Okay, it says, let me bring this over here. Okay, now we know that reflexive pronouns are words like myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, ourselves, yourselves, and themselves. All of those are reflexive pronouns. They refer back to a person or a thing, okay? Referring back, the idea of reflection, right? Coming back, or even emphasis, again, take that into account. So these are reflexive pronouns. It's not hard to use them, but actually it can be complex because there are many ways in which they can be used, and the meaning is not going to be exactly the same, and it changes in a certain way. All right? For example, the most common way to use this is to talk about that referring back to something in a direct way. All right? It's like you have to understand that I'm going to try to use something to draw over here. Okay, to understand this first part is that you do the action and you receive the action. Okay, so this is you and you. So actually I'm going to write a name, right? You, and this is you, right? So you and you are interacted with yourself. So you do the action, you receive the action. Here, this is the logic in the first usage. All right, I cut myself. It means I did that action to myself. I cut myself when I was making dinner last night. Okay, so I do the action, I receive the action. I hope you enjoy yourselves. You do the action, you receive the action at the party tonight. My phone isn't working properly, right? It turns itself off. It does the action, it receives the action for no reason. And we need to believe in what? Ourselves more. So we do the action, we have that need to believe in what? In ourselves. We do, we receive. Okay, so the first one is very simple. I'm giving a lot of emphasis to this part because you will see that then the next examples are going to be related to other. We have 4 cases in total. This is one of them, to the other 3 cases that we have for reflexive pronouns. Okay, so to be sure again that this is clear, we have to do what? First, understand this in this way. Okay, again, so the first type is the type in which you do the action, you receive the action. Don't forget about that. There is no specific emphasis, you are just mentioning that interaction. Okay, now if you go to the next part, adding emphasis, we start with something else. All right, with something else. We can add a reflexive pronoun to, or for emphasis, sorry, when it's unusual or different. Now, this is key. If something is unusual or different, here you're not saying that you do, you receive. No, you're saying that this is unique, that this is different. He wants to pass his driving test so that he can drive himself to work. All right, it's not that he's driving himself to work directly. I believe this example is not the best, but he's saying that he's driving and he's doing that himself. All right, he's actually doing that action. That's unusual and that's different. Okay, so it's not here that he is doing and receiving the action. No, in these adding emphasis ideas that we're checking here, we have to understand this logic as we are mentioning something with this reflexive pronoun just to show the emphasis. For example, look, I painted this work of art myself. Okay, I'm not doing and receiving the action. I'm doing the action, but I'm not receiving the action. I'm just saying myself because I'm putting emphasis on the idea that I did it. That's unusual. That's different. Okay, or when you say, hey, I got to finish the entire project myself. All right, so I got to finish the entire project myself. It's not that I'm doing and receiving the action, right? No, it's just emphasis on something that perhaps is unusual. It's not common. I got to finish the project and I did it myself. All right. Again, also it doesn't mean alone. We have a different word for alone. Here, it's not alone. It only means emphasis. Okay, it's like, yes, I really did it. Okay, I really did that action. Related to this, because we are still in the same part, also emphasis, we can also use it to say personally. All right, I mean that, yes, be sure because I was there, I did it. And to say that, you also use reflexive pronouns. For example, the door was definitely locked. I locked it myself. Okay, so here again, you don't do and receive the action. No, you do the action, the door receives the action, but you say myself to say, yes, I personally did it. Okay, not alone. Remember, we're not saying alone yet. These two are not related to alone. No, could be alone, but it's not the idea. The idea is that you did it and it's different, that you did it and it's unusual, or that you did it and you did it personally, right? That you were there, not necessarily alone. Are you redecorating your flat yourselves? Okay, are you doing that? Are you really doing that? Yes, right? No one else is doing it. We are doing it in this case, right? We are a group of people, yourselves. Okay, so once again, this is the second type. Remember, the first type, you do, you receive the action. Okay, I cut myself. I can see myself in the mirror. I see, and actually, right, I'm receiving the action because I can see myself. That's doing and receiving, first type. Second type, emphasis, because it's unusual, different, or because you want to say personally. Those two reasons, that's one type. That's emphasis. All right, on something very specific that is the person, that is the subject. For example, not only with I, right, but you can say she got to finish the project herself. The same. He got to finish the project himself, right? We got to finish the project ourselves. So, emphasis on something unique, different, unusual, and something that you or a group of people did personally, right? Or someone did personally. Now, this is the third type. It's still adding emphasis, but not only adding emphasis, all right? You are not adding emphasis to the pronoun as it was before. Here you need a noun, right? You need a specific noun. And to give emphasis to that noun, this reflexive pronoun has to be next to the noun that it is modifying, that it is giving some emphasis to, right? So for example, we talked to the manager herself. Herself is giving emphasis to manager because we is not herself, right? It's not we talk to the manager ourselves would be, but that's something different. With that, we talk to the manager ourselves. You're putting emphasis to the whole idea, okay? That we did that action, and it's like, wow, it's different, right? The second type. But here, herself is for manager. So we are putting emphasis on that idea, on the word manager. Okay, so once again, we talked to the manager herself and she agreed to give us our money back. Okay, so again, herself in this case is for manager. It happens the same in the second one. It says parents. Parents themselves need to take more responsibility for their children's learning. So parents themselves is given emphasis to what? Is given emphasis to parents. Parents is a very important thing here. So parents themselves, not anybody else, need to take more responsibility for their children's learning, right? So again, this is the third type, emphasis, but only on the noun, on one specific noun, not on the entire action, not on a pronoun, on a noun, right? The third type. And this is the last one. This is perhaps one of the most common ways to use reflexive pronouns, but in this way, it's actually something else because it means something different, right? It means alone. That's the only purpose of using by plus reflexive pronoun, to say alone. It doesn't have to be impressive. It doesn't have to refer to emphasis. No, it's not doing and receiving action. No, it's only alone. All right. He usually goes on holiday by himself or alone. He usually goes on holiday alone. That's it. Do you enjoy being by yourself or do you enjoy being alone? Okay, so in these cases, again, this is not doing anything else but showing that it's without anybody else. Okay, and this is the fourth time. So this only means alone. There is not anything else that is special about it. All right, by plus reflexive pronoun means that. So let's review and let's recap everything because with that, actually, the lesson is done. Now, let's analyze everything, or actually some of these elements. The first type, remember, you receive the action. I, what is the action? Cut, then myself. Okay, so the first type, do and receive the action. You, what is the verb? Enjoy, what receives the action? Yourselves. The same, right? It turned itself off. And we need to believe in ourselves. All right, so the first type is doing, receiving. You are the subject, you are the object. She is the subject, she is the object, and so on and so forth. The second type is divided in these two parts, emphasis for unusual, different, or for doing something personally. Why? Because if you analyze, it's not the same as number one. I, what is the action? Locked. What is the verb? Oh, sorry, the object? It. Okay, so we're not receiving the action. And then we say myself. So myself is to put emphasis or to clarify that this entire action, I locked it, I locked the door, is something that I did it. All right, and I did it personally. Or again, remember the example I gave you a few minutes ago. It was like I painted that work of art myself. So I is doing the action, painted is the verb, that work of art is the object, myself is the emphasis. Oh, right, sorry. The emphasis that says that all that action was performed by that subject. And that's either, all right, unique, or that's different, or I just want to say personally. All right, and again, that's why it says emphasis. I want to put emphasis on that idea happened and I did it. Okay, I painted that work of art myself. I finished, or we finished the project ourselves. All right, emphasis. This is the second type, remember. No receiving doing the action, just emphasis on the action that happened. The third type, the same emphasis, but it is not for the entire idea, for the entire action. This is for one noun, and it can be a person, it can be an object, it can be an idea. Okay, the manager herself, parents themselves. That's the example. All right, or you can say, right, the president himself was here yesterday. Okay, so we're putting emphasis on president. The idea that he was here yesterday, that is great, right? And that's clear. But it's not the thing that is receiving some emphasis, right? What is receiving emphasis is just the president. All right, the idea that this person was here yesterday was impressive, and the president receives the emphasis in that case. And then you can say, right, the teacher herself showed us how to improve these skills. All right, so the teacher herself showed us. We're putting emphasis on the teacher, that it could have been anyone that, all right, could teach us that perhaps, but it was the teacher herself in this case. So what's receiving the action, or not the action, sorry, what's receiving the emphasis is the teacher. Okay, so here, one thing is the one thing that is going to receive everything. Okay, that one specific thing is receiving the emphasis of this action. All right, the emphasis of that entire idea. So once again, if you put that next to the noun, that is going to be important, not the entire action, but this is the most important thing of all of it. Right, the manager herself, parents themselves. And again, finally, we got by, reflexive, which only means alone. It means, again, if in these sentences you say alone, that's it, right? If you say, I always go to the supermarket alone. All right, so if you say that, if you say, I always go to the supermarket alone, you can also say, I always go to the supermarket by myself. And it's the same. But remember, that's not number one, is not doing receiving action. That's not number two, is not giving emphasis to anything. That's not emphasis. It's not number three because there is no description for a noun. No, this only means alone. All right. She always dances alone, or she always dances by herself. It is exactly the same. All right. So with that, we are finishing this specific, all right, lesson. And that's it. Now, again, I'm going to show you something extra to use this time that we could use to practice, but we cannot do it, all right, because we are not working together. But anyways, let's begin with the extra lesson that I got for you. It's once again related to writing. Okay, so in the first part, right, that actually it was just the last class in which I showed you something extra, we got to see commas, colons, semicolons, dashes. Okay, here we're going to take a look at, very briefly, transitional words that you can use, well, to connect your ideas. And this is very important. So let's take a look at this presentation. And after this, the lesson is done, the class is over, and we will continue next week. Okay, so transitional words and phrases. This is the formula that you should take into account. To combine the two complete ideas with any of these transitional words and phrases. So, however, right, is the most common one. I went to the party. However, it was not as good as I thought. All right, I went to that great party, you can say, right? Period. However, comma, it was not as good as I thought. it would be. All right, so again, I'm showing there that that's the combination that you need. One complete idea, period or semicolon, transitional word or phrase, comma, plus complete idea, right? And that's what we have to use. Now, these are the 4 categories that we will see in terms of transitional words and phrases. Additive transitions, right? To add information in many different ways. This has, as you can see, at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subcategories. Adversarial transitions, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 subcategories. Causal transitions, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subcategories. And sequential transitions, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, again, subcategories. Let's begin with additive transitions. I'm just going to read some of them. I'm going to read some of these examples. And again, we have to remember that we can use this to connect ideas. This is part of writing. Again, the main idea would be practicing writing, but at least I'm going to give you this. So, adding information, you have those common terms. It means only words. Also, additionally, furthermore, moreover. It means you have any complete idea, right? I love this, but again, you don't usually do this with these transition words with short phrases, or not phrases, with short ideas. Usually you have longer ideas, right? I do this, that, blah, blah, blah. Then period or semicolon. Additionally, I do this, comma, that. All right, so complete idea, period, semicolon, additionally, comma, the second complete idea. And they have the same meaning here. Also, additionally, furthermore, moreover, the same. In the second column, you have phrases. In addition to, in fact, as a matter of fact, to add something else, right? So you say one complete idea, period. In addition to, if you have phrase over there, you can say simply, in addition to this, in addition to that, or you can add something that is going to be kind of incomplete. In addition to what I said, in addition to the above mentioned information, in addition to the previous information, to the previous details, etc. All right, so you are given a phrase to complement that. But again, the idea is everything that I mentioned before. All right, then you have introducing highlighting, particularly, notably. For example, for instance, to illustrate in particular one example of this, and so on and so forth. So highlighting, right? Introducing. You are introducing something. You are highlighting something with that specific transitional word. The same idea, right? Complete idea, this transitional word, period or semicolon, this transitional word, comma, the next word. Unless you don't see a comma. If you don't see a comma, perhaps you need to complete that first. Then referencing, all right, considering this, considering that, considering what I said. Remember, if it's a phrase, put a phrase. Concerning this topic, concerning that problem, concerning this situation, comma, regarding this information, regarding what you said. So that's why it's referencing, right? Because you are referring back to something that you mentioned, something that someone else said. That's why you say, right? Hey, regarding what you said yesterday, I need to say this. Okay, so I'm going back to that idea that happened before. I'm going to say something about it. And it's the same. Okay, those are terms, but you also have phrases. So as for what? As for this problem, as for this idea, comma, and you complete. With regards to the problem, with regards to your situation, with regards to a phrase, this or that. On the subject of, again, phrase, comma, looking at this information, looking at this situation, looking at this event. So you are referring back to something once again, and then you talk about it. Okay? Then similarity, this is easy, right? It shows similarity. There's no way to get lost over there. Similarly, right? Similarly, likewise, equally, those are the terms. And then you have by the same token, in the same way, in a similar way that are phrases. Same idea for all of them, remember. Complete idea, period, semicolon, transitional word, comma, second complete idea. All right? Then clarifying, identifying important information, especially in other words, to put it another way, what this means is that, this means that, okay? So in those cases, sorry, you see that in the two cases that are with these periods, we don't have a comma, and it says, right, no comma. So you don't have to use comma over there. All right. For the rest of them, as you can see, you always have commas. But in those two cases, you are not going to use comma. Okay. That's additive. Okay. And those are additive transitions. Good. Let's keep going. These are adversative transitions. First, contrasting, showing conflict. However, conversely, to show contrast between two ideas. If you want to use a phrase, in contrast, on the contrary, on the other hand, by way of contrast. All right, that's again to contrast two ideas. Complete idea, period, semicolon, common term or common phrase, comma, the second complete idea. Right, that's very important. Distinguishing, emphasizing, indeed, besides, significantly, primarily, even more, all, above all, more or most importantly, and you continue, right? You are emphasizing, distinguishing something, okay? That's something extra. Now, considering a point, it means, now this is important, okay? When you say contrast, it is contrast, right? They are different. For example, again, he is tall, right? He is tall, period. However, Peter is very short. Okay, so you're comparing someone tall with someone short. Okay, and you're contrasting that idea. They are a contrast. But considering a point is not contrast. Considering a point is something that happens every time, perhaps, but just because of one exception of something happened, it is going to change, and it's going to be something different. All right. So, for instance, I love going to parties. All right. I love going to parties. Nevertheless, I can't go today because I have a test. Okay. So usually I always go to parties because I love them. But now I won't go just this time because, all right, of something, because I'm sick, because I have to study, because of this, because of that. All right. That's considering a point. You are considering, you're giving something away, you're not doing something because, right, something else is not letting you do that. Okay, that's the idea of considering. And for considering a point, you have nonetheless, nevertheless, despite, all right, despite that situation, despite that, despite the weather, and so on, admittedly, regardless, or regardless of. That's going to be actually more of a phrase. All right. And actually here only regardless, right? And then we have regardless of. But it's going to be also for the phrase, actually, as you can see over there, it's there. Now, for phrases, even so, in spite of the situation, in spite of what you told me, in spite of this, in spite of that, notwithstanding that, notwithstanding this, notwithstanding the situation, notwithstanding what I said, so on, regardless of the situation, regardless of this, regardless of that, and so on. Okay, and the ones that are involved, although it has, right, it's with a, well, unique formula, although complete sentence, comma, complete sentence afterwards also, right? Although I love the rain, comma, I won't go out because I'm very sick. Even though I love rain, comma, I won't go out because I'm very sick. Okay, so the same idea, all of them, that's why they are in this group. All of them are for considering a point. Okay, then dismissing an argument or assertion, I'm just going to read, regardless of, either way, in any case, in any event, right? So dismissing an argument or assertion, it means It doesn't matter what you said, okay? Regardless of that, we have to continue. Either way, right? Either way, I mean, okay, it happened, but anyways, right? We have to continue. In any case, we have to continue. In any event, whatever happens, all the same, at any rate, okay? All of those are going to be to show the idea of dismissing something, okay, that happened, or yes, we understand that, or yes, it's clear now, let's go to the next part, okay? Something like that. The next one, causal. Here we have two main ideas that is showing causing, showing cause, sorry, or reason, or showing the effects, results. For cause, reason, you have since, complete sentence, comma, second complete sentence. Okay, but this is cause, as, the same idea as above. Okay, and that's the formula that you need. But you also have common phrases, due to, owing to, because of. Okay, so you can say this is cause, reason, right? Because of the weather, all right? Because of the weather, I'm not going to go out. Okay, so the reason is the weather. Because of what you told me, I'm not going out. Due to the lack of information, it is not clear. Okay, so that's the cause, that's the result. Explaining conditions, unless granted that, in the event that, complete idea, as long as, right, then you have same, only if, and same. Okay, explaining conditions. And again, this is very common, right? Explaining the conditions is like this example. Unless these conditions change, more will need to be done. Okay, unless you finish, all right, this, you won't be able to go. All right, something like that again. Okay, so explaining conditions, that's it. Showing effects, results, that's the opposite of the first one. Consequently, therefore, thus, accordingly, as a result of this, as a result of that, or simply as a result, for this reason, for that reason, as a consequence, and so on and so forth. Okay, and here again, this is result. So, I love pasta, period. Therefore, comma, I'll buy some, okay, I'll buy some to eat it tonight. Okay, so that's the result in that case. I love pasta, and the result of the fact that I love pasta is that I'll buy some to eat tonight. Okay, so easy, right? Result. Then showing purpose, for the purpose of this, for the purpose of that situation, with this mind, in fact, with this situation in mind, and so on, in the hope that, and complete idea, right? So you're showing the purpose, simply that. What's your motive? What's taking you there? And you have the example over there, right? For the purpose of following standards, X rule was observed. Okay, so that was the purpose, for the purpose of following standards. That's it. Then highlighting the importance of circumstances. Otherwise, okay, so if you don't take this circumstance into account, something will happen. So that's why those circumstances are very important. Under those circumstances, that being the case, okay, that circumstance being the case, in that case, if so, okay, if that circumstance is true and everything is correct, then this happens. All else being equal, and the same idea. All right, so that's it. And we have the last one, and this set of transitional words and phrases again in Gina. You can use them for your writing, for your speaking, and they are, as you can see, organized in many different categories and subcategories that are important to understand. So organizing by number, this is very simple, right? Initially, firstly, secondly, thirdly, first, second, third, or phrases. First of all, to start with, to begin with, to commence, in the first place, in the second place, in the third place, and so on. Okay, so same logic. Remember, what is the complete idea? Period, semicolon, transitional word or phrase, or common term or common phrase, comma, the second complete idea. Unless you see no comma or you see other combinations, we've seen that, you do that. Okay, so initially the subjects were asked to write their names. Secondly, this, and that. Thirdly, this, and that, right? So just using numbers to organize your ideas, showing continuation. So if you don't want to say secondly, or then second place, you say afterwards, eventually, next, after this, after that, etc., etc. Okay? Then, and same idea. Okay, that's just to complement the first one. Summarizing, repeating information, right? Once again, summarizing. So you are doing that, right? It says summarizing, repeating information. To repeat, to make something clear. There we need just the comma. Okay, to repeat, comma, this complete idea. As stated before, okay, so you are coming back to something close to referencing, right? As was mentioned before, earlier, above, it depends how you show that information. Okay, so summarizing this data, comma, it becomes evident that there is a pattern. So you're summarizing, repeating something, repeating information. Digression or resumption, incidentally, coincidentally, anyway, by the way, to resume, returning to the subject. All right, this idea it's a little bit special, but again, follow the examples. Coincidentally, the methods used in the two studies were similar. Okay, resumption, discretion. Returning to the subject, this section will analyze the results. Okay, by the way, it's more even like clarification, but it's here and it works. Then concluding or summarizing, ultimately, finally, therefore, altogether, overall, briefly, to conclude as a final point, in conclusion, given these points, in summary, to sum up. So you also have summarizing up there, right? So you decide which one you want to use. So you have those two options for summarizing. Even, right? Sometimes here, discretion resumption is going back to something. It's something that we did in the previous part related to referencing. So some of these categories are going to share words or phrases, but it's the same because the context in which you can use them is very similar. So you use the same expressions, right? So here for summarizing, you can use perhaps the best for summarizing are going to be altogether, overall, briefly, in summary, to sum up, right? That's like for real summary. Then if you say finally, therefore, to conclude as a final point in conclusion, it's more concluding, right? It's not summary. So again, you can really recognize and identify if you're using the correct words or not. It depends if you want a summary or a conclusion. But again, the logic and the way you connect everything is following this formula. Okay, complete idea, period or semicolon, the transitional word or phrase, the common term or the common phrase, comma, and the second complete idea. Okay, and that's it. I just wanted to share those words with you. Again, it will be important to practice, but at least the least that I can do is to show you that so that you can practice everything by yourself. Okay, now I'm finishing with the class because that's everything we had to cover. With that, unit 2 is already done. Okay, we are done with our once again, we're done with unit 2. On Monday, we start unit 3. We start with the next 3 lessons and we continue like that. Okay, I hope you have a good night or a good rest of the day and see you in the next one. All right, and don't forget please about the schedule that we have. It's from 8 to 9, I believe in your case, Gina, on Mondays and Wednesdays. Remember that on Thursdays, it's not at that time. I think that you joined yesterday. Remember, it was supposed to be on Thursdays, but at 9:15 or 9:30. But again, we're not assisting, and for me, it's not easy to be at that time. Okay, if it was on Thursdays, it's not at 8. Okay, it's at 9:15 or 30. But once again, it's only the case if we attend the classes. As we don't, And to me, it's difficult at that time. That's why I'm recording this class at this specific time. All the other schedules are being respected. Actually, all of them, because I ask for permission if I want to change something. And again, as we are not attending the classes, is that actually I can record right at the time that is going to be better, because at that time that I was telling you for Thursdays, it is impossible. All right, but remember, it's not at 8. It's only on Mondays, Wednesdays, that it's at 8. If it's going to be Thursdays and you are going to resume your activities with me, it will have to be at 9:15 or 9:30 as it was before, right? Or the better option for me, and we're going to see because we have different schedules, it will be this time, Friday, 7 to 8. Okay, so that's it again. Have a good rest of the day. I hope everything is working good, but please, again, it's really important that if you can, perhaps you can go back to the class later on, but without practicing together, without feedback and all those details, um, many things are not going to be assured in terms of improving. Okay, as I said, management, Gina, I have to repeat this. I cannot assure anybody's, right? I cannot assure anybody's improvement, or yes, getting better at any score if we are not actually every day in class practicing and being sure that everything is clear in the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so once again, have a good night, rest of the day for the third time, I believe. See you in the next class. I hope you're there. Monday, 8 o'clock. Okay, Monday, 8 o'clock. Wednesday, 8 o'clock. Friday, 7 o'clock. Okay, it would have to be, if it's the case, on Thursdays at 9:15 or 9:30, but it was never established as we are not attending. Okay, let's try to fix that with management, please, in case that's an inconvenience. All right, bye bye.